Welcome back to the Common Message podcast. It's Preston and Jonathan, and we are continuing in our Common Joy series. I was out of town last week on a little beach trip, but Jonathan did preach last week and had to fill in. But this week was the text was Philippians chapter 1, verses 27 through 30. Now, Jonathan was just telling me that he kind of connected it to the previous lesson that we didn't do a podcast on. So Jonathan, I want to let you start.
Yeah.
And I'll let you kind of share how you've connected these two texts, and kind of what that looks like before I'll share.
Yeah, it was a great time. We connected and we call it Living is Christ part 1 and part 2.
Okay.
And the reason is, man, I feel like the Apostle Paul makes it clear that there is a glory. There's something bigger that is worth living.
Yeah.
And living for him was Christ. And but dying is it's something greater.
Yeah.
But not for the death itself, but for what is coming after that.
Yeah.
So we connected this week in the two parts, and it was just great. Understanding.
Part 1 would have been verses 12 through 26.
Correct.
Part 2 this past Sunday,
past
27 through 30.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first part was more understanding why he was living under this conviction.
Yeah.
And what was Paul's motivation to living in this way, this mentality? Because as we mentioned the previous week, when you're in jail or in the hospital or struggling with things, you're not necessarily glorifying God. Right. But it's interesting how Paul, under sometimes even his worst circumstances, he mentioned the word joy more than any other part. So we started with the idea that in Christ, every struggle or everything we go through, if it's in God's hands, it's a purpose. There's a plan. And we always heard about this, but being in jail for the best preacher in that era wasn't the best plan for the community. We need Paul, and we need it now, and we need it outside preaching. Yeah. But what happened, and that's our emphasis last week, it's people started preaching more. Paul was preaching to the court and jail and all the guys that were in jail. His influence gets greater and greater, and the people started believing in the gospel more than ever. So last week was more like when even in our worst circumstances can be used for God, from God to a better outcome. And we mentioned Joseph. Joseph was the connection point, and he said in the chapter 50 and Genesis, he said, "What you intended for bad." Good.
And we see that throughout the story of God. One of my favorite examples of that is as you read through the book of Acts, and you have this amazing beginning to the story in Acts 2. And then there's this moment where there's the first Christian martyr, Stephen, right?
Yes.
And it says right after he's martyred that a great persecution breaks out the church and everyone's scattered.
Yeah.
And if you read that story, like, this doesn't seem like it's good.
Yeah,
but then you wait a few chapters and you recognize that everyone that's scattered, they also begin to preach it. So now the gospel isn't just in one place, it's everywhere all of a sudden. That's something that God does, is moments that seem like persecution, like suffering, like you're losing, can be used to advance the gospel even more than maybe you ever imagined. And we see that in Paul's life, and that's such a beautiful example. And hopefully we see that in our own lives in a lot of ways, like in moments that I don't see like it seem like it's working, it doesn't seem like it's going well. Maybe we look back in 15, 20 years and God was doing something that I didn't even see in that moment. It was so much bigger than me, right?
Yeah, there's many stories that when you experience maybe with your own family, my wife, we talked to, hey, do you remember when we were in that place and all these happened? And now we understand the reason why God allows that.
Yeah.
Or allowed that in that time. It's hard to be faithful under that circumstance.
Sure.
And that's a challenge. And I think that was Paul's encouraging. Hey, just keep loving each other.
Yeah.
Preaching the gospel. God has a plan. Trusting in that is the challenge. Yeah.
And that's the way that one section ended. I'm trying to find the exact verse. Oh, verse 6, being confident in this, that he will begin a good work in you, will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ. And so it all kind of really ties in together what he's saying here in chapter 1. It's saying that no matter, that really goes into what we're going to talk about, verse 27, whatever happens, which is how verse 27 starts, like no matter the circumstances, God's got a plan. He's going to complete it. And yes, there's moments where it's hard to trust in him, but that's kind of, when you have the freedom to know, man, God's going to do it, that's where this joy can come in.
Yes.
Because it doesn't matter the circumstances anymore, whether you're in chains like he is, or if you're under persecution, like it seems like the Philippian church may be experiencing. And you can still have joy not because of your circumstances, because of what God is going to do through this moment. So beautiful awesome stuff. And I can definitely see how you can make a part 1 and part 2 out of these. And it's funny because that section I was out of town is where the iconic verse 21 is. To live as Christ and die as gain. It's funny. When Casey was filling in, one of the first things says, I can't believe Preston gave me this passage, because it's like one of the most important passages.
That's the cool part.
It's one of the most exciting ones. But it does tie in to where we're hitting in 27 through 30. I titled my sermon this past Sunday, Faithful in the Midst of Opposition. And to me, it's almost like Paul is giving this strategy to the church. It's like, hey, here's how you can lean into this and really be faithful in opposition. And it starts off with this understanding. And I love verse 27. He says, and put it up here real quick, verse 27. I've been jumping around. Whatever happens, conduct yourselves in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. That no matter the circumstances, no matter what's going on, you are to be shaped by the person of Jesus. And it doesn't matter if you're in chains. And this is coming on the back. So if he's talking like, hey, I might get to visit you guys, but I might not. I'm in prison. I'm not in control of that. Or I might actually die, or I might not. I really don't have control over that either. But whatever happens, I know who I am. I'm going to be shaped by the person of Christ. That the way I carry my life, the way I'm governed, isn't by the Roman government, isn't by any rules they try to make. I'm shaped by the person, by the very nature of who God is. And that's the first step. And then he kind of jumps into this idea of unity in verse 28. He talks about, verse 27 still, I will know you stand firm in the one spirit, and then striving together as one of the faith of the gospel. And we started talking about, this became really the crux of my lesson, is what does it look like for us to strive against the opposition? And one of the big things I talked about is we got to know who the opposition is. And I think we live in a world where we try to put faces and names and political parties, countries. I mean, we're in the World Cup now, so the opposition definitely is other countries. But seriously, like for us, sometimes the opposition seems like our neighbor. Sometimes the opposition seems like the Republican Party, the Democrat Party, or a certain political leader, or maybe it's Muslims, or and we try to put this in. And it's Paul that Ephesians says, your fight isn't against flesh or blood, but it's a spiritual warfare. And when we figure out our enemies, then we have to live according, our life is shaped by Jesus. So how we strive together against our enemies is also shaped by Jesus. And you get into, well, what does Jesus talk about when it comes to enemies? And he says, love them. Love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. And it really connected with Casey's lesson, because he was talking about how, man, when you live in love, there's nothing your enemy can do to you. It can even kill you, and it's still going to glorify God. And it was the same truth that kind of I got to in my sermon is, hey, our strategy to face opposition is to love our enemies. It's the most radical strategy that God's ever given us. But what a blessing that we can love our enemies in such a way that our lives become a signpost of what the gospel is to them. And that's really where I went. 27 through 30.
Yeah, we talk about how Paul had this deep conviction about the place. We emphasize this part of the text and the fact that 2 Corinthians chapter 12, he said, I know a man that was, I don't know if in the body or out of the body, he went to the third heaven, and God allows him to see things that I can't even explain, he said. I was telling brothers and sisters in our group that every time I want to go somewhere, I'm always researching the place first. I want to know more about the place, It's like I found excitement and understand a little bit of a glitch of what is what to expect about this new place. And when I go to the place, I enjoy the place even more because I know where to go. I know have more information. I think the Apostle Paul he had this clear idea what is heaven and what heaven looks like. And he said, I know that this is not the optimal conditions. I know these troubles are not an earthly way or the best way to approach the beginning of Christianity. Maybe it's not the best strategy to proclaim in a world without social media, preaching the gospel, being in jail in that time wouldn't be the best strategy, but it was for God. Because we don't depend on the circumstances. We depend on a powerful God that can do from someone in jail, he can expand the gospel even more. So we were talking about Paul's conviction of the place that was awaited for him.
Yeah.
And when we think in that bigger picture, we can understand that these circumstances are going to pass in some time.
Yeah.
That regardless if it's good or bad, that is temporary. And living in that conviction that there's a bigger goal, that there's something bigger and greater, well, that makes you think differently and living a life with purpose. And now he said, living is Christ. So he could understand, well, everything I'm going to do in this earth is going to glorify him. So,
it's like living with the end in mind.
With the end in mind, or living with the end. And he said, if I want to glory in something, I want to glory in the fact that I could understand what God is preparing for me, and there's so many things that people can, they can flex and they can be, they want to be glorified for, things in this earth. But he said, what I saw is greater than anything in this earth. I can't even describe it. So I was in our group, which is in Spanish, I was telling our brothers and sisters, there is a greater citizenship.
Yeah, very good. Yeah,
there is a greater place. There is a more important goal. There's a better situation and conditions. There is no pain. There is no persecution. There's not people destroying themselves in relationships. There's not evil in this place. So living with that in mind refreshes our minds and makes me excited about what is coming. So
yeah, very good.
Yeah, we focus the second part of that.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that because like there's things in here that like verse 29, for it has been granted to you on behalf of Christ not only to believe in him, but to suffer for him.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can read that and be like, granted, I've been granted the great opportunity to, yes, believe in him, that's correct.
Yeah.
But to suffer for him,
Yeah.
like Paul sees that as an opportunity.
Yeah.
Which we see in verses 12 and 13, he was living out. It's like, oh, what a great opportunity. I'm chained to this guard member 24 hours a day. Man, I get to share the gospel to him.
Yeah.
And you guys know I'm in prison, so you're involved to preach more. And so he really saw opposition as opportunity. Yeah.
It's understanding the beauty, the Beatitudes.
Yeah.
Beatitudes in chapter 5 of Matthew. It's I'm joyful and grateful even when I cry for the Lord. So he's understanding the pain in a different way. He's giving it a different angle.
Yeah, and if I would say there's probably one thing I wanted people to take away, maybe kind of two things. It would be first is seeing we got to realize who the opposition is.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if we got to recognize even though the devil uses people, we're like in a proxy war, and he uses people to do his bidding, so to speak, that the people themselves aren't the enemy.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important for us to see that. If we don't see that, then Paul would have always stayed the enemy, right? And he's the one writing this letter.
Yeah.
Okay? He definitely seemed like the enemy, but God was gracious and loved him, and he was able to kind of turn, full transformation in his life. And so we got to see people, the Satan and evil are the true enemy, even though he uses other people. The second one is the people that seem like opposition in our lives are sometimes the people that we are given the biggest opportunity to show the love of Jesus, right? Like it's that coworker that's always on us for being a Christian, tries to marginalize us, that man, that's maybe your best opportunity to show the enemy love as Jesus would. And so like, I think that's kind of the biggest takeaway I wanted people to have for us is like, man, do we have that mindset of Paul? That when we face opposition, like, oh, hey, here's actually an opportunity I have.
Thank you
Like,
for that.
yes,
Yeah.
this doesn't feel great, but like, what if I just love them in such a radical way that they're like, what is going on? I think that's actually what Paul is saying here. This was a kind of hard verse to unpack, but I think that's what he's saying here in verse 28, where he says, this is a sign to them that they will be destroyed, but that you will be saved by God. That if we live our lives in such a radical way that we're loving our enemies, it's going to be a sign to them that what they're doing is going to lead to destruction, that the way you're living is leading to life. And it's going to be a moment where, hey, maybe I should change the way I'm living, you know? And so I think that's kind of what I would want people to take away from Sunday is, man, opposition doesn't have to be a punishment.
No.
Let it be an opportunity to show the radical love of Jesus, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's a better way to live, friends. It is a better vision of the world through the Christianity. I think opposition is going to be there all the time.
That's right. That's right.
And not everybody is an enemy. I think it's a lack of vision of the opportunities, and that comes with the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And I think God is providing that, whether it's a relationship in your church or your family or someone around. Show them the love of Jesus, even though sometimes we don't deserve it.
That's right.
And but at the same time, it's transforming and shaping your soul. Understand it that that's exactly what Jesus did and he's doing every day.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Apostle Paul was doing in jail, even in Lystra. As soon they stoned him almost to death, first words after that was like, I got to keep preaching the gospel. You know, it's radical. Yeah.
Was there any thoughts or any parts of your lesson that did making your lesson that you want to share? I got one that just came to my mind. So
there's always things that we really want to get deeper into it. Because we were talking about the eternal place and the bigger goal. It was that little desire to explain a little bit more about heaven and how is that, how it looks like. I just mentioned, Revelations in Spanish, Revelations 21, 22, and we're talking it's Isaiah, Ezekiel. We were talking just barely few words, but we were excited about how that looks like.
Yeah, for sure.
How is that the eternal place? And we would love to know more, have a better picture about what is coming. That's the important part.
Yeah, the one thought that I kind of never really got down enough to unpack, but it's kind of going into that line where Jesus on the Sermon on the Mount, he preached that to love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. And I was thinking about how that fits in with what Paul's talking about, but Paul was on the receiving end of that. Like he was at a moment in his life where he was the enemy, and I had this thought that we're early Christians living that out. It's part of Paul's story because early Christians, even though he was persecuting. We don't have examples of it, but I wonder if the early church, did they still try to love Paul, even though he was killing them? Did they actually pray for Paul? Like, were there early Christians that prayed for Paul so much that he had this experience with Jesus? We don't know that, but it's a thought. And and then who is that for us? Like, who is the person that we still see as an enemy that we could pray for in such a way that God could reveal themselves so that they're no longer seen in that way? Like, I think sometimes we limit God's ability to do such amazing things like that. But Paul's a real guy who really had that amazing turnaround. And if Paul can transform his life, anybody can, right?
Anybody can.
That's the blessings we have. So let's be faithful in opposition. See opposition not as a punishment, man, an opportunity to show the radical love of Jesus. Any last thoughts from you?
Yeah, just this is a call from everybody. I think it's a personal call. It's trusting in God's plan.
That's right.
It sounds like repetitive many times in our churches, your places. Trusting in God patiently. He had a better plan. He have a better plan than we are.
That's right.
Keep doing God's work, gospel preaching, regardless of your circumstances.
Yeah, whatever happens,
keep preaching, because maybe God is allowing that. He's not provoking it, but he's allowing that situation for you to grow in your spirit and also others see God's face during your process.
Yeah, we're going to continue in this. And so next Sunday, if you're joining us in person, we're in our Common Joy series. We're going to be in chapter 2 now. So we finally have made it through chapter 1. I hope you follow along with us there, and hope you follow along with us here on the Common Message podcast. We'll continue to unpack each other's sermons and share a dialogue about that. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.